So why diversify? Why could it be good for me to do this? What are some potential drivers for me to push me to diversify? Well, the first potential driver are what I just mentioned, economies of scope. So economies of scope refer to gains made through applying existing resources and competencies to new markets or services. I'm expanding somehow. I'm doing stuff, different stuff in new markets or services, and I can benefit from what I already have. A really good example of this here is the London School of Economics. The LSE basically owns all of these properties, right? They own all these student residency properties, and students rent them during the summer year, the school year. But what happens to these properties between the month of May, June, July, August? Well, they're empty. Okay, they've got this huge investment. It's basically empty. What do? They started LSE Vacations. And LSE Vacations uses a skill they've already got. They're applying that skill to basically summer rentals, inexpensive rentals too, for the City of London, which is really a great deal. And this is an economy of scope. They're doing two different things, but by doing these two different things, they're actually decreasing their average cost of production for each of these types of offers. Another is Tesla. I'm not going to go into it, but what I suggest you do is you take a look yourself and you try to discover, what are the different businesses that Tesla is operating today, and how do they create economies of scope? How are they decreasing average cost of their activities by doing different things together? Why does that make sense? Okay, so let's move on. Another reason why we'd want to diversify is to stretch our corporate management competencies. This is a potential benefit, right? I do something really well in my company. LVMH is really good at brand and image development. So I've got this dominant logic, these corporate level managerial competencies. And you know what? I can take my knowledge of marketing and brand development that I'm applying maybe with Louis Vuitton and other things, and apply it in different markets with different products. So I can expand and move out of, for example, fashion and leather goods into wines and spirits and perfumes and whatnot. There's a certain know-how that I can apply across these different business sectors. Same thing with 3M. 3M, sure, everybody knows the original activity, but look at all the stuff they're doing. They're making Post-it notes. They're looking at healthcare issues here. They're all over the place. And why? Because there are some strong corporate skills that they've got up here, specifically managing brand equity and managing innovation, that they can apply in a variety of things. So that's the second reason, why do it. Third reason, well, you can have a company like Fosun that has some internal processes that are really, really, really good. And if you're in a developing economy, some of those internal processes and skills that you've built up may be hard to find in the labor market. So it may be better to, basically grow my company and expand into different services and use my existing knowledge that I've got inside Fosun to run and develop new services and products. And number 4, we've got potential benefit of increasing my market power. Sometimes I'm in a company and I've got basically a company and we're selling a certain product in the market, but I've got a competitor that's selling tons of products to my market, and I'm competing with this person, and he has a little bit more room for strategic maneuvering than I've got. A simple product in a simple market, and they're selling tons of products maybe in a market. Well, maybe I want to match them competitively and say, hey, I'm going to match you, and so I'll be able to compete at the same game you're playing. So we're similar, and that may be a reasonable thing to do to respond competitively. And I'll explain to you what I mean by that. Because when you have many different products, you can cross-subsidize an activity with another. So very simply, you know, if I've got a product here, let's call it product A, and I've got a product B over here, and let's say, well, I've got a competitor over here with product A prime. They're competing in this market, and they're selling something similar here, and this is a totally different market, right? And let's say I've got a lot of dominant power over here in market B. Well, you know what I'll do is I'll lower the price here. I may even make a loss. I can compete aggressively against my competitor. Why? Because maybe my profits are real high over here. So I can cross-subsidize my loss with my profits that I'm making over here in B. So I'm cross-subsidizing, and this gives me an incredible advantage over my rivals, and also over potential entrants, right? Because entrants are going to say, whoa, if I come in this market, market A, this guy's just going to use market B to cross-subsidize a very aggressive pricing strategy, so I don't enter. And that's how it works. Vertical integration, now, our third subject, is all about a specific type of diversification, and it's all about diversification within the vertical structure of an industry. Well, let's just remind ourselves what we mean by vertical and horizontal. Horizontal integration, to start, is moving across. So imagine you're, Ford Motor Company or Renault, automobile manufacturer. You've got your component manufacturers above you, upstream from you. They provide you inputs. You assemble your automobile using their inputs and some products, some components that you manufacture yourself, and you then distribute through concessions. So you're distributing through distribution channels and all automobile concessions, which are often independent organizations that are buying and have a relationship with you and are buying and selling in local markets. Horizontally from you are markets that are, well, they're like you. They could be also other automobile manufacturers, but similar markets horizontally, truck manufacturers, bus manufacturers, and things like that. So Renault could actually say, yeah, you know what, we're going to expand our activities into truck manufacturing, which is what they've done, right? They've gone into truck manufacturing. They've gone into bus manufacturing, right? And in some cases, you can horizontally merge. You can buy another automobile manufacturer that's right next to you. So this is horizontal activity, horizontal integration. I can integrate different activities horizontally. Now, this is good because we share many of the same processes. Sometimes we buy similar components, or we use same distribution channels, and by expanding horizontally, I can take advantage of the fact that I've already got that all in place. Now, vertical integration is a different story. So here we've got my value network, and I'm an automobile manufacturer, and I'm getting my components upstream. I'm assembling my automobile, and then I'm distributing it through my concessions. Well, vertical integration basically is saying, well, maybe I want to play many games. Maybe I want to be many things vertically. The first type of vertical integration is going to be upstream, backwards integration. So I'm currently making cars, but now I want to also manufacture the parts. And this could be good because I can capture the upstream profits. Imagine that you're down here buying components from, Renault or Ford is buying components from people upstream. Well, I'm going to be paying a markup, obviously, on these different components. Well, I can now capture that markup. Now, got to be careful because I can sell this product cheaper to myself. But when I sell it cheaper to myself, I'm losing the potential revenue of selling it to somebody else that's ready to pay more. So there is not as much profit gain or savings of costs as you may think. Yeah, I sell it to myself cheaper, but every time I sell a product to myself at a cheap price, I'm not selling it to somebody else that would pay more. So you got to be pretty careful about this. Good example is Starbucks growing its own beans in their production process. The other type of vertical integration is downstream or forward integration. And probably the best example I can think of would be airlines. Airlines before depended heavily on travel agencies to sell tickets. And now, well, you go directly. You can still go through a digital travel agency and buy it. Sometimes brokers, so they're actually, buying up seats in advance and getting less expensive seats. But airlines go directly to their customers now via their websites. So they're capturing the downstream profits that these travel agencies were adding. So instead of letting the distributor add additional margin and increasing the price, well, they're going to grab that by themselves. It's kind of like, when people who sell their own apartment or sell their own house or sell a car or a used car themselves on an online site. Don't have to go to a real estate agent anymore. And so if I sell my house directly to the customer, I get the benefits and the profit that the real estate agent was getting. So some of the problems we have with integration. Specifically, one of the issues may be that that I'm going to make some investments to maybe integrate downstream or upstream. And these investments are going to be paid by my investors. And in some cases, the profits of the activities upstream or downstream from me may be less than the profits I'm making. And so if I have an investor, right, if I have my company here, right, and I've got my operations, that's a company, and I have a stockholder over here, and we invest in buying something maybe upstream from us. So we invest in an upstream firm, and this is going to require investments, and so maybe I need more stock, and I issue stock shares to do this. I'm going to invest in this company, and this company maybe has low profit. Well, what's going to happen is the stock value of my company, which is now all of this, right? My company now is all of this stuff here. The price of my stock of this will actually potentially decrease. My investors are investing in both of these, and if one of these activities has a low profit, the share price of my company will start to go down. The average return on investment could decrease for my investors. That's not cool. They don't like that. Another problem with integration is integration may require different and distinct resources and capabilities. I may not be able to do very easily what my supplier was doing. They may have their own network, may have their own skills, and sometimes you just can't do it. Yeah, I'm going to try to sell my own house, but maybe it requires certain skills that real estate agencies only have, and I don't have them. So integration can require distinct resources and capabilities that maybe only these different operators, these pure players, have. And in fact, some organizations and some sectors are now disintegrating. Companies are realizing that they want to focus on their core activity and stop doing certain things, maybe upstream or downstream. Real good example of that you've got right here. Call centers, right? Call centers, perfect example of disintegration because, well, they're saying, well, that's not really our business. So we can pay a call center company to take our phone calls and answer our customer questions. And that's what they're good at. They can do it better than we can. Payroll services, we have companies like ADP. ADP is a international company that manages payroll for corporations. They do it really well. And so big companies are going to subcontract out to, ADP to do their payroll. They do it better. It's a distinct capability that ADP has. So companies are now actually disintegrating and getting rid of operations where they know, hey, somebody else can do it better than us and cheaper than us. Let's get rid of it. But subcontracting also has potential costs and potential dangers. So yeah, I can work with ADP, but will it always work out? First off, there may be few alternatives. So I can subcontract out to somebody to do my payroll, but hey, you know what? Maybe that company is a monopoly, or maybe that company is, they've only got choices of 2 potential payroll managers that I don't want to do payroll anymore. I have low power, and they're going to negotiate a big price for me to do it, and they know they've got power. So that's the first thing. If the product or service is really complex, I'm going to go to a supplier upstream or look at something to help me with the distributor downstream. If this service is super complex, or if the product is complex, well, I'm going to lack clarity, and they can take advantage again of this. This is a power that potential sellers or buyers have over me. And another thing which is really interesting is the use of specific investments, relation-specific investments. So again, take the example of ADP. Imagine we have our computer system. Okay, we've got a computer system, and my computer system is communicating with, and I'm collecting all my information about, my workers, the hours they work, etc., etc., etc. And over here we've got ADP. And ADP says, hey, we can do your payroll for you, no problem. We'll send your employees their checks at the end of the month, and we'll make sure they get paid. The only thing you got to do, though, is you got to take your IT system, add a little module, okay, that it's not free, right? And it's an investment for you. And once you've added that module, our IT systems can effectively communicate. And we'll be able to do your payroll, and we'll communicate the checks to the bank and make sure your employees are properly paid. So that's our job as a payroll manager. Bank. Well, it's not a bank, but I tried. And this is cool. But this is my company. These are my people. And now suddenly I'm making this major investment so that our systems can talk to each other. Well, ADP knows that I've made this investment. ADP knows that if they start increasing their price, well, I've made this investment, and I can't just unplug this thing right away. I've got to stick with ADP. And so I've made a relation-specific investment to be able to work with my subcontractor, and they can exploit that. It's a switching cost. I can't quickly change to another provider of payroll services. And this is one of the dangers that exists in subcontracting. So, if we measure the pros and cons, should we integrate? Well, if there is a risk, the subcontractor can behave in an opportunistic fashion, well, then maybe just do it and integrate the activity yourself. Should I subcontract? Pardon me. Well, if unique strategic capabilities are required and you don't have them, well, then you need to subcontract. And you need to find those capabilities in a subcontractor. There's a lot of other reasons why you should or shouldn't, but these are some of them to consider.